The summer solstice has come and gone, and as the daylight begins to fade earlier and earlier, the racing season continues with just as much intensity, especially in the virtual world. The SPEC MX-5 SimRacing Challenge tackles round number 6 from Monterey, California's WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. After 5 rounds, Ken Ausiel leads the point standings as a rookie in the series and is only a few rounds away from capturing a championship and a chance to drive in a real SPEC MX-5 Challenge race car. Welcome to Winding Road Magazine. My name is Kyle Heyer, joined tonight by Finian Dcunha and DJ Alessandrini, the 2019 SPEC MX-5 SimRacing Challenge champion, as we tackle our 6th round at a racetrack that is known for one corner and one corner only, guys, and that is the corkscrew, Finian, as we tackle our 6th round of the season.
Yeah, obviously that's going to be the main talking point anytime you come to Laguna Seca, that corner in particular. Obviously there are other corners for these guys to navigate around this track, but for the most part, even the drivers on track here are going to be focused on that corner and getting it right, because a lot of mistakes going to happen down there in the corkscrew.
And DJ, welcome back. And the last time we were out here in SPEC MX-5 SimRacing Challenge, we were at Road Atlanta, where you actually went out for the first time, your only time this season, your provisional event, and you went out there and absolutely just dusted everybody. Swept both races, beat Ken Ausiel and Paul Darling, and took home the trophies twice over, but no points for you there. But tonight you're back in the booth here as we go to a track all the way on the other side of the country. Your thoughts on this racetrack? It's certainly a fun one in this car in particular.
Yeah, I mean, I had a little bit of an advantage last round just because I'm fighting for glory and those guys are fighting for points, so I always have an advantage in that situation. And Road Atlanta happens to be one of my better tracks, but a track I'm not very good at is Laguna Seca, which we're here tonight. This is a very, very tricky track, and I think it's only recently, like literally in the last 3 months or so, where I feel like I'm starting to figure out what makes a car fast here. And you guys are talking about the corkscrew. That's the corner that the audience likes to talk about, but the corner that the drivers like to think about is the turn before that, turn 6. It's real fast, and it creates a passing opportunity that is few and far between on this track. This is a very, very tough track to pass on.
And turn 6 you mentioned, and there's a lot of tricky aspects to this corner. It's very fast to see. You are under a lot of compression when you enter this corner because the track falls away and then rises up. But I'm looking at one thing in particular that's a distraction for me, and that is this big curb right there, Finian. These red sausage curbs around this racetrack, they will absolutely destroy your suspension if you hit them the wrong way. Some corners it's good to hit them. I would say turn number 6 is a place you'd want to avoid those big anti-cut curbs.
Yeah, it's such a tricky corner too, because the line you take through there is rarely tough. As you see some of the drivers now coming into frame, you can just see how much that they're on such a fine line to that corner. And you know, especially at the start of the race, you can just see guys side by side through here. And through this corner, you know, we talk about give and take. It's going to be a lot of giving in this corner. You can't really take a whole lot, otherwise you'll be out in the wall to the right side. And
then the run down to the corkscrew. And DJ, you said everyone likes to talk about this corner, and maybe it's not as difficult as everyone makes it sound, but it's certainly a spectacular drop. You're down 4 or 5 stories down from the bottom of that to the top of that. You see Chris Taylor going through. He's the one on provisional pole. They 150.317 as he heads down through 9 and 10. There's a lot of tricky parts on this racetrack, and in a moment we'll go over the track map just to take you for a lap around here. We do want to thank our sponsors, and so we'll take a moment to do that. Of course, Ricmotech high performance sim racing equipment you see at the bottom of the screen there, as well as our other sponsors, Winding Road Racing, Winding Road Magazine, and of course, as always, Level Up Racing School, who is one of the groups providing the season-end prizes. Because what's at stake here, guys? We are here in an esports environment, competing in the virtual world for a very real prize. And one of those prizes is getting to step into one of these cars in real life, an opportunity that DJ will get to do at some point at Road Atlanta, where you won last week in the virtual series, DJ. So a lot of excitement for the driver that comes away with the championship, which right now is Ken Ausiel, a rookie in the series.
Yeah, I mean, Ken has a great opportunity. He's got a good lead. I mean, he's been real consistent, and that's what you need to do to win. I probably wasn't the fastest driver last year, but I kept it out of wrecks for the most part, and Ken's done the same. He's just, I think he only has 1 win, but he's real consistent up in the top, and that consistency wins.
Consistency wins, and Ken Ausiel's been consistent and fast. And here, Finian, let's go through a lap at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca and see what a lap around here looks like, because it all starts with a run down a long front straightaway. But this is what the track used to look like. It wasn't always how it is right now in the sim. This is as it was originally built, a little bit shorter than it is now. And you can kind of see the silhouette here. It was originally a very fast left downhill sweeper through turns 1 and 2, and then you're carrying all that speed all the way to what is now turn number 6. It was turn 4 back then. Then the track was reconfigured in the 1980s to give you a couple more corners, including the Andretti hairpin, the 1-2 combination that leads you into the infield, 3 and 4, and then up to turn 5, and Finian turn number 6, which DJ talked about, takes you all the way to the corkscrew.
Yeah, that corner's going to be really important to get right, turn number 6, because it sets up for that run down towards the corkscrew, and then obviously you're probably going to get sick of us talking about the corkscrew tonight, but you're heading down to that corner again. It's going to be very tricky, especially on the opening laps with a lot of drivers around. A lot of guys are going to be using that as a passing opportunity, but down through the corkscrew, then setting up for turns 9 and 10, and those are really tough to set up for such a high load on the cars. Then you come down to turn 11, heavy braking zone where we've seen a lot of collisions in the past, coming back out on the front straightaway, complete a lap at WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca.
That's a little over 2.2 miles. It takes these drivers about a minute and 43 seconds to get around. And DJ, that last sector, really 9 through 11, is a corner that I think or a set of corners that a lot of people maybe underestimate there. Those are really challenging. They're on camber, so you're using a lot of speed through there. You're kind of leaning on the banking a little bit, but it's also one of those places where if you mess it up, you're going to go for a very long ride out into the gravel.
The tricky part for those corners is that they're on camber until the very edge of the track, and you'll see the fastest drivers, they're using all of the on camber part of the track, and then that last little bit of the track that's off camber. So it's a lot of trust into exactly how you're placing the car into that corner, because if you're a little off, you're going for a ride in the dirt.
Here's Nathan Saxon through turn number 6 now. Apex, a little bit of curb on drivers left. Look how dusty this place is as well, Finian. A lot of drivers run off track. They're going to drag that dirt and mess onto the racing surface, and in a little amount, it probably won't be much of a big deal, but you get a lot of dirt on the racetrack like you see right there in the middle of the corkscrew. That could be a factor.
You know, this track is honestly absolutely filthy if you want to go through some of the static cameras, just looking at how much dust these guys have dragged on, especially through the final sector here. You're going to see a ton of it to the right there, almost looking like a beach, and then also coming through turn 10 and 11 as well. There's just a ton of dirt on the track, and if they drag anymore, it can definitely be a factor, and even almost is in some places, because some of them are pretty much straight on the racing line.
One of the drivers that's back this week after missing Road Atlanta was Jonathan White, and DJ, he's back, and he's back with a vengeance. He's currently the provisional pole sitter. He was the points leader, or very close to it, when he missed Road Atlanta, but now that he's back, I think we have to look at this driver as one that could have a really solid result in this championship. I know Ken Steele's leading it by a fairly significant margin, but can never count out a guy like Jonathan White.
You know, and he's leading before the drops. I believe there's 2 drop races for the year. So John was in the lead before last round that he missed. So if those are his drop races, he's still in contention to win this thing. And John showing at the top of the board right now that he's really fast. Hartley's right behind him though, and my experience driving against Hartley on this track is Hartley is a beast at Laguna Seca, so watch out for him tonight.
And another driver that's kind of stuck up in the top 5 that we haven't really spoken about a lot this season is Gustavo Purgato in the number 11 car. This is a really good effort for him, puts himself P3 for the moment. Then the postman, Chris Head, in the number 33. Remember last year, Finian, at this very racetrack, ended his night early with a blown engine by downshifting too early into the corkscrew, so maybe he's learned from that and won't do that mistake again.
Yeah, I'd hope that he had learned his lesson, because it's going to cost him a really solid finish. And I mean, he's got some solid speed here, currently 4th on the timesheets, and only a little over a tenth behind the rest of his competitors up in the front. So definitely has a shot of still getting pole if he can get a really solid lap in.
Another driver that's inside the top 5. If he didn't have bad luck, he would have no luck at all. And that is Jesse Stevens, all the way on the other side of the track. He has had nothing but bad luck this season, DJ, and I think this is a little bit of frustration because there was a lot of drivers that came into this year with a really high hope that they'd be able to grab some race wins and run up front all the time, and Jesse Stevens was my pick to win the championship in the first round of the season. Has not gone that well for him. He's been involved in a lot of incidents, most of them not his fault. He finds himself down the points a little bit and is here really just to try to grab some race wins before the season ends.
I mean, but part of being a race car driver is taking care of the machine and avoiding things that even if they aren't your fault. And I know some of the incidents have caught Jesse this year, but there's like a sixth sense with the guys who are able to win the thing, where they just know how to stay out of trouble, like Ken, like Jonathan White. Those drivers are finishing races, and that's the important part.
Yeah, and go on what DJ was saying, just Stevens found himself back in 9th in the standings, which you might think is, not too terribly bad, but compared to the other drivers that have 2 wins this season, again, just Stevens has 2 wins this season, such as Robert Hartley and Ken Halseal first in the points and Hartley 5th in the points. So that just kind of shows you, again, the wins are definitely important, but, just overall finishing in a high position is important as well, and I think that's where Stevens has been not performing well at, so hopefully he can try to improve it for the rest of the season.
So we've got about a 27-car field lined up for the racing tonight. We've also maintained a very consistent field through the 2020 racing season, and the field kind of tailed off at the end of last year. The schedule was spread out so long that I think we lost some people towards the end. This year, the schedule is a lot more condensed. We've got fewer rounds, and we're keeping the field sizes a lot higher. And one of the things I was so impressed with last week, DJ, and I know that you were kind of ahead of it all, was how clean the starts were, Finian. We had very few, I should say, incidents on the opening laps, and I think we'll probably see something similar here this week.
Yeah, fingers crossed that does go as planned. Hopefully we didn't just jinx it there, and it's going to be an absolutely massive wreck heading out to turn 1. But yeah, these guys have been doing a phenomenal job this season in general, especially last week too at Roval.
Michael Borden is 11th right now in qualifying. Ken Halseal only 10th. Is this a concern here, DJ, as he's only got a 1:43.135, which is over half a second off of White's best time?
So I've been watching his laps, and he keeps just dropping a half tire off and dirtying his laps. He hasn't had many clean laps here, so he's got to put in a clean one eventually. You see right there, he left a lot of margin on the outside of the track. He's feeling the pressure, man. He's got to put in that clean lap, but at the same time, if you don't have a banker to really let one fly, it's tough to forget about the fact that you're sitting in 10th and do that lap that you can on the ragged edge.
Well, this is one of the tightest fields. Sorry to interrupt you, Finian. This is one of the tightest fields I think we've seen this season. 17 drivers within a second of each other, all the way from White back to Kevin Zhu in the 43 car. So a very tight field this week.
Yeah, looking at practice times, which I think is a pretty decent indicator where these guys' speeds are at. In fact, Jesse Stevens set the fastest lap in practice, which was a 1:42.3. Ken Halseal set a 10th off of Stevens' time, a 1:42.456. So he's definitely got the pace in him to at least be minimum in the top 5 and even top 3, or on pole as he just comes across the line. Nice job.
1:42.3, and DJ, as you said, just needed to get a clean lap in, and he did it, and he has got pole by 0.3 of a second now.
Yeah.
He passed 3 cars on that lap, and it was at the last little half of the lap too. He must have been on the mic just begging for people to jump out of his way, because that's what it looked like was happening.
Well, either way, Ken Halseal puts himself in the best position. As we take a look at the rest of our season, we'll update you on where we are in the schedule. So basically, earlier in the year, we started back at Summit Point on April 15th. The world has changed quite a bit since April 15th. We went to VIR, then the Charlotte Roval, then Watkins Glen. 2 weeks ago at Road Atlanta, and now Laguna Seca. And we've got 3 rounds left. We'll be July 8th at Sebring, July 22nd in Sonoma, California, and the 5th of August. That will be at Circuit of the Americas for our season finale. So after this round, only 3 remaining, which means we've got 9 rounds total in this championship, and Ken Halseal is putting himself in a great position to win this championship and get himself a chance to drive one of these cars for real and kickstart her racing career.
Chris Henn has just shot up into 2nd place in the 33 machine. And I was just going to say, Jonathan White, as he was running this lap, had a chance of potentially beating Ken Halseal's time, but put a tire off out of turn 6. So he's not going to be able to get another chance. As remember, qualifying is going to end as soon as the checkered flag comes up. There's not going to be any extra time for these drivers to complete their time, so you're pretty much going to be on your final lap now if you haven't started already.
Looking at the weather here, it's actually relatively cool conditions for this time of the year. 72 degrees in the air, 85 on the racetrack, so there should be some decent grip out here. I know lateral grip is often a struggle at this track, DJ, but we'll see how the temperature changes here for the race session. We're going to have 2 of them tonight, both 20 minutes long, and we'll get a chance to watch these drivers run race 1, and then the finishing order from race 1 will line them up for the 2nd race of the evening. So with 30 seconds left in qualifying, Halseal is the best man on the chart. Tony Chow goes 3rd quick in the 68 car. Good run for him.
Yeah, really surprising run up there in third. Great qualifying effort for him. His high starting position before tonight, again, his qualifying is about to end. I can't imagine he's going to drop too many spots. Was 9th. So really solid effort for the 68 machine.
Guys, Tony Chow started sim racing back in December, and he only did it for like a week and then jumped back in the beginning of February. He has barely sim raced, and he's hanging with some of the best in the country right now. That's really impressive from Tony.
It's really cool. So I didn't know that he was that new to it, DJ. He's been pretty quick. So that's pretty neat to see.
Right off the get-go, he was. And I watched Chris Henn's lap to see if there was any draft. You know, Ken had a lot of draft on his. I haven't had a chance to look at Tony's, but Chris's lap was 100% draft free. So we might see some pressure early on Ken from Chris here.
So looking down the hill, this is the entry to turn number 2. Turn 1 is actually more up at really the top of this picture here, really up in this direction. I don't know why they count that as a turn, but they do. So really you're looking at turn number 2 as we head back to the front of the field here. Again, 27 cars strong. Nick Del Campo will be the last driver on the grid. And Finian, I think it's about time that we roll through our starting lineup. So on the front row this evening, it's going to be the number 94 of Ken Houseel from Pennsylvania and Chris Henn, the postman, in the number 33 from New York.
Yeah, and then we got Tony Chow in the 68 machine lining up in third. Next to him, Jonathan White going to line up in the 22 in fourth.
In row number 3, Jesse Stevens out of Georgia in the number 13. He starts in P5. Robert Hartley, 6th in the number 03.
Gustavo Pagano going to line up in the 11 car in 7th place. Next to him in 8th is going to be 06, Luke Pfeiffer.
In 9th place in row 5, Steve Ficacci in the number 51 out of New Jersey. Nathan Saxon from the New England area in the number 41. He starts in 10th.
Ismael Basso is going to be starting in 11th in the 40 machine. 40 in the 42 next to him in 12th is going to be Michael Borden.
In 13th place, Chris Taylor's number 53, and 14th, Thomas Bressy in the number 24. Had a decent run at Road Atlanta. Tries again this week at Laguna Seca.
Jack Sanchez is going to line up in 15th and 23. Next to him, Kurt Crum in the 07 going to line up in 16th.
In 17th, Drew Reinhardt's number 69, and Kevin Zhu in 18th in the number 43.
Max Bagman going to be starting in the 89 in 19th, and I'm finally going to get this name right, Alexander Lekowitz.
There you go.
The 16 car in 20th.
In 21st, Brian Chmielski in the number 12, and Corentin Dubois starts in 22nd. Home race for him in the 76 from California.
Brian's going to be starting in 23rd in the 30 machine. Ryan Wagner in 17 car going to line up in 24th.
25th place, Justin Hall. 26th, Rob Lebel in the 14. We already told you Nick Del Campo would have started 27th, but he did not take the grid. So as we head through the last couple of corners here, pace car is going to pull off very quick pace lap. No time to warm up the tires and get the brakes up to temp. We're going to go straight to green flag racing for 20 minutes, about 12 laps worth. Houseel, Henn on the front row, Pennsylvania and New York represented. On the West Coast, green flag flies racing from WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca for SPEC MX-5 Sim Racing Challenge round number 6 as they charge down towards the Andretti hairpin. Houseel's clear. Chris Henn moves drivers left. Up the outside comes Jonathan White with a big push from behind him. That's Robert Hartley, 03.
Bump there from Hartley onto Chris Henn. That was definitely intentional. Hartley doesn't rub fenders on anybody on purpose.
Going to get into a few drivers and a few drivers going around spinning out of the hairpin.
And where did Houseel go? He just all of a sudden lost control of the car at the exit of turn number 2 and is going to drop now down to 6th place as they head through turn numbers 3 and 4. So move Jesse Stevens up to 4th place. A big mistake by Houseel. That's going to bring Nathan Saxon up. You mentioned a couple spinners. Luke Pfeiffer was one of them. There's another car that went way off the racetrack. That's Ismael Basso. Oh, he's tumbling up and over. Big crash there for the number 40 car. He's out as soon as it started. But Chris Henn pulls away with a wild start to Laguna Seca.
Oh man, if this was real life, this would be a red flag right now. That guy is all over the place.
A big mess to start this race. A lot more messy than we saw at Road Atlanta a few weeks ago. There's a couple drivers making some side-by-side moves through turn number 6, but now down into the corkscrew. The field heading down the hill, dropping several stories. That's the 42, Michael Borden. He's up into 9th. He'll grab a spot away from Steve Ficacci.
Yeah, gonna move himself up another spot, but ooh, I saw Robert Hartley get a piece of gravel, went sideways, but is gonna save it. However, he completely compromises exit through turn 10, gonna get in the gravel again, but Jesse Stevens, nowhere for him to go.
Elbows have been out on the opening laps here. 2 minutes down, and it feels like we've been racing for 10 hours as we lost 3 or 4 cars to the start of that. Don't know exactly what happened on the initial start, but Hausiel made a big mistake at the exit of turn 2, and that was a surprising one, DJ. But he's now back to 6th and has to fight his way back forward.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back and kind of see what happened to him. I bet that he ran a little wide on corner exit, and yeah, that's exactly what happened. He ran a little wide on corner exit and just had to gather up the car and needed a little bit more than the racetrack to do it.
Yeah, here's a look. Yeah, you see him just the slightest of slips down in turn 1. I also wanted to see what happened to Luke Pfeiffer, who was the driver that we saw. You see Hausiel right there, going to grab a little bit of dirt. He'll lose it. Again, cold tires there. Pfeiffer gets together with the 11 of Gustavo Pragado, so they'll spin. That was the issue there. And then we get down to the next corner. Is it Ismael Basso that had an issue? Was this off of Borden, potentially, as they came down into turn number 4? And was it a front-rear bump? Borden goes for the inside. Oh, no, he just ran wide.
Up and just overcorrected it into the wall. He's going to go and just ramps up it in and tumbling down. Wow.
You know, guys, he went out a hero. I don't think he ever lifted during that.
Keep your foot in it as he go tumbling over. So Chris Head leads the way. Now remember back to last year, he was having a really good run, then blew the engine entering the corkscrew. So he's got a 7/10 of a second lead now. It is not shrinking. Just don't make any mistakes. Chris Taylor, Jack Sanchez, they are 11th and 12th, just on the outside looking in. Steve Ficacci drags a tire off, and this is one of the most dangerous racetracks, I feel, to leave a tire just on the exit of the curb on the outside edge of it, because you'll get that very low grip dead grass, DJ, and it'll just send you for a loop.
Yeah, it gets real slippery real quick, but like I said, if you're going to be extracting all the time from this track, you have to use that last little bit that's no longer on camber, and you're playing with the edge of a knife to fully utilize that. You know, Chris kind of looks like he was running away a little bit, but as I say this, it looks like John grabbed a bunch of time into turn 2, so never mind.
Tony Chow, he was the one that started up inside the top 5. He slipped back to 7th. He's got Michael Borden right behind him now as he sets up a pass into turn number 3. Door slams shut, though. Now we'll have a look into turn 4.
And trying to make a move on him, and Chow made a mistake in turn 6, went off into the grass, lost 2 spots to Saxon and Hausiel ahead of him. Might lose another here as Borden's got a great run out of the corner. Here they come to turn 5 as Borden going to try to outbrake the 68 to the inside.
And he'll get there, and again, very tricky to run offline here at Laguna Seca, so Michael Borden will go on through. For the lead, though, Jonathan White has closed in on Chris Hen for the race lead. There is gravel and sand everywhere on this racetrack right now, but you see the damage to the back of the 33. That's from a slight touch earlier, and something tells me we're not done doing that just yet.
Yeah, John's going to be putting the pressure on Chris here, but it's going to be hard to make the pass unless Chris makes a mistake. So what John could do right here is he could try to force Chris to use up his front tires, so you could like fake attack him going down the front straight, make Chris feel like he has to defend by braking a little bit later than he normally would, have him chew up those front tires, and then make your move toward the end of the race.
Certainly don't have trouble seeing that 33 with the beautiful metallic livery he's got on. Thanks to Stephen Burbage again from Night Fox Designs for setting us up with these simulated SPEC MX-5 liveries. This is what the cars will look like for the 2021 season, and it's nice looking indeed. It's also, we should also mention the colors again. The drivers with the black base paint schemes are drivers that ran this series last year. The white are the ones that are new to the series. You see Ken Hausiel, the first driver in the white car. He's in 5th. Then Tony Chow is the next best in the 68, then Chris Taylor back in the 53. And the Chris Taylor especially, along with Ken Hausiel, they've been 2 of some of the best performing rookies in the series and making a good show out of it. Chris Taylor, again, he's been consistently a top 10 car. He's a little bit more to be up there competing for the race win. As we go back to Lekowitz and Purgado, this is for 17th place.
Yeah, looks like Lekowitz going to get it. Is that Lekowitz in front? Or
Lekowitz, it is Lekowitz in front and Purgado behind.
Yeah. Just gonna get the pass down there. Still, though, really close together. These 3 cars into turn 5.
This is Corentin Dubois that we're on board with now, the 76, up 3 spots from 22nd.
You see how the 2 drivers in front of Corentin use that little bit of curbing, and the curbing flattens out. If you notice, the drivers in front of him pulled about a half a car length on him just by not using that little last bit of track. It's really important that you do that, but it's very tricky and very treacherous to do so.
Down the hill now through the corkscrew and then heading to the final sector on the course.
Oh, Thomas Bresci just completely messed up turns 9 and 10. Went for a little bit of a wild ride, too. You might want to get a replay of that.
There's a look that's coming out of the corkscrew. He was following the 0-7 to Kurt Crum. These drivers have been near each other pretty much every week. And tracking out. Yep, so he grabs the exit curve. Wow, big slide there. Then he gets out wide of the entry to 10.
Oh, he's still crashing.
And gotta gather it up.
He crashing from one side of the track to the other and then figured it out. But man, to catch that initial dirt drop, his hands must have been really quick.
Back up front, 12 minutes and 40 seconds left in race number 1 of the night. And Chris Henn continues to lead. Jonathan White has taken some time out here and there, but it hasn't been consistent. Big curb hop there for the 33. They chase each other back, and Robert Hartley sits in third, a quiet third. I think he's lurking.
Yeah, that being said, though, the fastest of our top 3 was Chris Henn last time by, and Jonathan White actually the slowest. But Hartley has been closing in at least to the 22. So they're starting to converge on one another. Who's got a damaged engine or a blown engine from Max Bagman in the 89?
And that is a pretty much end of the day for the 89. That's typically a downshift incident, DJ, and we've seen this happen often. And here's a look. We'll run on board.
Yeah, it's really easy to do, and the car kind of rewards you for being aggressive on your downshifts because it helps slow the car down and saves the front tires. So the drivers who can do that consistently and accurately will have a faster car at the end. But you run the risk of blowing your engine like this. Me personally, just for the duration of the season, I never flirted with it just because the consequences are so huge.
Update from a battle we saw further back on in the pack with Purgato and Lekowitz. Purgato and Lekowitz actually made contact with each other in the final corner. And Purgato going to get a penalty from that.
Rob Level in the number 14. He is spun out, and this is at the bottom of the hill.
He just reset.
Yeah. We'll go back and see exactly what happened here. I think he just caught the dirt on the inside of the corner, all on his own, and kind of tank slapped it back and forth, and got stuck sort of in the middle of the track and tried to get the car spun back around, but decided just to get off and avoid being in the way. But there's been, pit road's been a busy place the last little bit. You see Purgato hit pit lane. This might have been a penalty here, Finian, drive-through perhaps?
Yeah, as I was saying, you got a penalty for making contact with Lekowitz in the final corner, so that's him serving it right there. Lekowitz going to be back in 17th, but Purgato, though, all the way back in 23rd as he comes out of pit road.
And you can see...
that's a shame because both of those drivers were looking fast. Sorry, Kyle.
You can see the damage. I was just pointing out that usually you got damage on the door. You've either hit somebody or somebody hit you, and it seems like Gustavo was the bat, not the ball that time, and had to come down pit road and serve the penalty. Go back up front, though, still 0.3 of a second between our race leaders. Chris Henn, Jonathan White, and White's keeping Henn honest right now, but I do think that Henn's the quicker car for the moment.
I've seen a couple missed apexes from Chris, so that might indicate where his front tires are right now.
Yeah, I'm interested in seeing how this is going to play out because remember, DJ, you were talking about it, I definitely agree too. It's pretty tough to pass around here, especially for the leading cars. So I'm curious to see, if White is putting enough pressure on Henn or if Henn is actually still saving something. But I mean, from as you're saying, he's been missing some corners and it doesn't really look like it. Looks like he's giving it his all. White, meanwhile, not so much. So time's going to tell here as they're getting to the second half of this race.
And you might also have Jonathan White just playing nice behind him because he doesn't want that Hartley car to be jumping in there going, me too, me too. He might be, hey, Chris is making a gap. I'll just play nice unless he makes a major mistake like he almost just did and give ourselves some space to play.
Speaking of Hartley, I think made just a mistake somewhere. He lost a lot of time to White, and now he's fallen to the clutches of Ken Alceel, who's now trying to pass him for third.
Remember that Ken was our pole sitter by 0.3 of a second, made that single mistake on the opening lap, and he has not been able to get back to the lead. He's made up 2 spots from 6th to 4th, but it's now kind of gotten stuck there. So with 8.5 minutes to go, DJ, I think the intensity is going to have to come up for Ken if he wants any shot at winning this race.
But remember how these races kind of play out. Race 1, they kind of, they put themselves in a position where it's like, okay, well, I want to have a good position for race 2 to, to amp up the aggression. I don't want my my round whatever end in race 1 and then have an abysmal like an entire round. So you see drivers kind of thinking about the points a little bit and playing it safe. But I mean, you got Jesse Stevens, who has almost nothing to lose, and you got Hartley, who's got a lot of room to gain. Oh man, yeah. See, Jesse's going, I don't care where you are in the points, I'm getting past you.
Putting a lot of pressure on the back of that 94 car now. Ken jumps the curb in turn 10. Will stay drivers left to kind of take a slightly defensive line so Stevens won't dive up the inside. In the dirt, though, that was a bit of a distraction for House-Seal, and you can't brake very well on the loose dirt here. It's better to have the tires on the pavement.
And from all this chaos that Stevens caused, House-Seal in that final sector alone lost a second to Hartley up ahead. So he's got to work hard again to build that gap back up, as Stevens is still back on him, too, and is not letting go.
See, that's a tricky thing with passing somebody here, is if you're going to pass them, you got to just make sure it sticks, or you might pass that guy and then you're like, well, cool, I guess, like, my race is over.
These three continue to fight. There's Nathan Saxon at the tail of this group, so House-Seal is now on the defensive. That's let Hartley get away slightly, but for the race lead, Jonathan White is putting so much pressure on Chris Henn that at any moment could be the mistake that changes the lead and changes the hands here. Chris Henn's led every lap so far.
You know, besides a couple miss apexes here and there, Chris just looks really smooth and composed. There's nothing wild about the way he's driving the car right now, which makes me think that it's going to be consistent and sustainable. You know, he drops a tire right there, but as long as you're not trying to will the car back on the track too quick, you should be fine with it.
Into the corkscrew, down the 4 stories again from the top to the bottom. Nathan Saxon.
That's got to be really fun.
It's got to be so much fun. That's really, you know, that corkscrew's been there ever since the track was created, and we took a look in the early part of the broadcast of how this track has changed. But I think the corkscrew is one of those recognizable sections of racetrack. Think Eau Rouge at Spa, or even the Dipper at Bathurst. It's just one of those corners that everybody knows, everybody loves, and it's a pretty solid corner. It's a passing opportunity if you're brave. And then, of course, it's the stomach and the throat ride as you head down the hill, as the track falls away from underneath you. It's a really good piece of racetrack.
Every track should have a corkscrew. I'm going to email Sebring and let them know that they should put one in.
Just build one in the middle of it. That'd be amazing.
I don't even know how it would work.
Just dig a hole in the backstretch and throw a corkscrew in there.
Optional corkscrew.
Well, this fight, there's a whole lot of cars here. There's Alexander Lekowitz, Kevin Zhu, that's the blue car. Then Corentin Dubois, Justin Hall. It's a 4-horse race for 15th place.
It looks like the start of the race back here.
Kevin Zhu getting aggressive, moving over to the left, maybe a bump draft down the straightaway. Kind of an unsettling place to get one, but Lekowitz is going to stay hard left and go defensive into turn number 2.
You know, I was practicing with Kevin Zhu last night for the SCCA series, which is tomorrow night, and we were both driving the Endy out of the newer version of this car. And Kevin was fast, man. I wonder if his race pace is different than his just outright practice pace, but he was only a couple tenths off, and he looked real solid. His lines and the way he was handling the car looked really, really good.
The 17 and is that the 12 car, Wagner and Chmielewski, they chased each other over to the edge of the track and then gave up once they got there. So 3 cars in a line now. Zhu, Dubois in the 76 and Justin Hall 64. Still line astern as they head through turn number 6. That battle has sort of fizzled as Hall's going to run a little bit wide of the exit of 6, and that will let Wagner come on through in the 17. Oh, excuse me, that is actually the 15 car of, that would be Nick Del Campo, who didn't start this race at the green flag, started from the pits, but here he is.
Yeah, and he actually had an internet connection issue early on, so that's why he was not able to grid, unfortunately. So he was able to join back in the server to at least still start. And I mean, all things considered, not too terribly bad considering he didn't start with the rest of the field.
We have 2 races, so he'll get a chance to redeem himself a little bit as he has a big run now on the 76. We'll go drivers right. This is all for basically 19th spot. A bit of a touch, more of a touch. Oh, push and a shove. And now they're 3-wide corner exit. This is getting racy.
Yeah, this is not going to end well if they end up like this in the Andretti hairpin.
I'm sure this is... Well,
I have faith.
As they're still 3-wide on the front straightaway, getting real tight here. Stewart's watching with a very keen eye, and Nick Del Campo will go on through, and then Hall has to avoid the 76 of Dubois, who's still to his inside, and that moves the 15 car up to 18th place, it looks like. I got 2 cars scored 18th on my timing and scoring. I don't exactly know why that's the case, but I think Del Campo should be a lap down.
Need glasses?
No, he's not a lap down.
These guys are really scrappy.
Is he a
These
lap
guys
down?
are so scrappy right now. Look how scrappy they are.
Oh.
He's going to make it stick.
Wow. Oh my goodness, these guys got to let it go. For 18th place, guys, as they're through now, so that will move the 17 of Wagoner up a spot, the 76 to 18th. I still have 2 cars scored 18th. I don't know what the timing and scoring is doing on my end here, but it's very silly. So I'm going to step away. We'll go back up. How about 7th place? Nathan Saxon and Tony Chow. Oh.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of people, and again, we already had a penalty given from contact in this very corner, and we saw the contact again coming out of the final corner. So you got to be very careful from the closing rate from some drivers, especially trying to make a move. So,
interesting note here, guys. Take a look at the top here. 2 laps to go. While all this has been going on, we've been ticking away laps. Chris Henn has Jonathan White less than half a second behind him, and there is still 2 minutes and 20 seconds to go for Jonathan White to get on by. Next time they come around, that will be the white flag, the last lap of race number 1, and Jonathan White is going to wait no longer. He has no pressure from behind, so all the focus is out the windshield.
It looks like John's car's has a little bit more front tire, but man, I haven't seen any probing or experimentation from John at all. So he's kind of going into these last 2 laps without a lot of intel of what Chris is going to do to defend against his attacks. So you know, that intel is important because it kind of lets you lay down your attack for you know, that 1 or 2 chances you're going to get to make it stick.
Yeah, the big thing too is that White, he's got no other drivers in behind him. It's just himself and Hen that he's going to deal with. So on the right, you know, even if he has to open prob, he's got a little bit of room to play with before Hartley catches back up, being over a second behind these 2 guys.
He's got to be a little bit closer. I don't think you can dive in from a half a second back. Maybe 2 or 3 tenths you can make a send, but Chris Henn is known for being the postman, and you can't really send it from in front. You see Jonathan White take a big chunk out of the curb in turn 10. This time by white flag 1 more time around. WeatherTech Racing Laguna Seca. A little bit wide as Chris Henn missed the apex by a foot. White tucks it in tightly as they've got 2.24 miles left.
I think part of the problem for John White right now is that he's faster on the front part of the track, and Chris is faster on the back half of the track. And the back half of the track is definitely the easier section to pass on, and that's not going to work when you're behind the car.
Yeah, and again, he's just a little bit too far back to make a move here as they exit the Andretti hairpin and head into turn number 3, and the skies have darkened, the track beginning to cool off a little bit. The last little bit of grip these guys need out of their Toyo tires, they're going to get it here as they come through turn number 4. Very flat. You're leaning on the tire, whatever tread you've got left. And now you're going to head up to turn number 5. It is a hard left-hander, down a couple of gears. Then they're on to turn 6, and that is really where, for me, you build your momentum. If you don't get a good run through turn 6, the attempt to pass is over. So for Jonathan White, he's got to build up all this speed and use it in this 1 corner right here.
Now, Chris, let's see what his nerves are like, because he knows that he just needs to hit this well, and he'll basically have this race in the bag. And he hits it good enough. It's not like John killed it there or anything. So, I mean, right at this point with the lead that Chris has, he just has to hit his marks, do his thing, and I don't think we're going to see anything wild from John, just because he knows he needs to have a good starting position.
Right. I think that's the other thing, is that I don't think Jonathan White's going to feel too much pressure to absolutely go for it here, but he is close, and this is enough to make the heart rate go up in the Chris Henn driver cabin right now. Good run through turn number 10. Henn might have to go defensive to keep a dive up the inside from happening. Here it is, final corner, and White's not going to go for it. He's going to try to set it up on corner exit. Checkered flag. Now the run back to the start finish. Going to be close, but Chris Henn, the postman, after blowing the engine in this event last year, comes on through. He picks up the checkered flag in race number 1. Jonathan White second. Robert Hartley third. Ken Ausiel in 4th. Michael Borden. Whoa! Close across the line.
I was gonna say, I heard Ken was apologizing for something, not sure what exactly it was. Oh, he got into contact with Jesse Stevens in the final corner.
Oh.
That's why he was apologizing.
And where's Jesse Stevens? He comes home 9th. That's frustrating. Let's go back and see what happened to Jesse Stevens. And this is final corner here. Yeah, he did get spun. Here's a look. Entering the final corner.
this might be bad for Ken if he gets a penalty of some sort.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if that'll be a penalty, honestly, because Ken has to turn into the corner at some point.
Yeah, let's see from up above. Maybe it's a better view. Yeah, from that view, it doesn't quite look so bad. But either way, Jesse Stevens, who was running up inside the top 5, will come home in 9th. That's a frustrating end for him. We'll see what the stewards say about that. Here's a look at your race results. Henn, White, Hartley, Houseel, Borden, your top 5. But Chris Henn, Finian, a good run for him. He brings home the checkered flag in race number 1.
Yeah, that was a really solid drive for him. I'm sure White's going to be just a little bit disappointed that he really couldn't find any way around Henn in those final laps. Could really have used that extra point again in that overall battle between himself and Ken Houseel.
All right, we're going to step away for a break just for a moment. You hear from our sponsors. We'll be back in just a second. Welcome back live to the SPEC MX-5 Sim Racing Challenge here on Winding Road Magazine. If you're joining us on Facebook, make sure to hit the like button. If you're on YouTube, make sure to hit the subscribe button if you have not already. Of course, we've got amazing point of view driving videos all the time, but we've got 3 more rounds of this as we head in to the end of the 2020 season. 4th to last round of the season is what we're doing right now. We've got 1 more race left this evening, another 20-minute event. And just a moment ago, it was Chris Henn that returned to victory lane. Guys, there's a little bit of drama coming to the checkers. Finney, we're still waiting on word of what the steward's decision will be on the incident between Ken Houseel and the 13 of Jesse Stevens. Didn't look malicious at all, but of course, you never really know how things are going to get ruled, so we have to find out.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're going to really only wait for official word. I kind of agree with DJ. If anything, I think it might just be a racing incident, but if it is a penalty, that's going to be big and definitely have some championship implications, which I'm sure Ken is not looking forward to if that is the case.
So 45 seconds left in the pre-race warm-up before we turn them over to grid them for our second race of the night. And again, the race 2 always seems to be a little bit rowdier because I think people are a little bit more confident in their car. And we've also kind of got them sorted a bit by their speed. So this will be interesting. Jonathan White, though, DJ, no conservation anymore. Is he going to go for it now, or do you think he's going to still try to points race a little bit tonight?
Yeah, you might see something a little frisky on the beginning just because I think he's realizing how hard it is to pass here at Laguna. So, I mean, honestly, the best opportunity to have would be in the beginning, but the way the race is starting in this series is the leader gets to pick when he goes. It's not necessarily go on the green flag. It's you get to lead before it, and then everybody else reacts to you. So that's the advantage you have starting from the pole position. So, with knowing that, it's going to be kind of tough for John to do anything right on race start, but maybe he'll get something done with the cold tires.
All right, so now we're going to line up for the green flag here. Again, we've got a relatively short pace lap as we head down to the racetrack, and Kyle Heyer, who started on pole in race number 1, he slid off at the exit of turn 2, finished 4th in race number 1, looking to redeem himself. Tony Chow gets a new lease on life from 7th place. Jesse Stevens from 9th. Chris Taylor back in 10th. Other notable drivers, Luke Pfeiffer all the way back in 26th, Finian, so he's got a lot of cars to pass.
Yeah, update from race officials. No action will be taken between the contact of Jesse Stevens and Kyle Heyer, so all set for this race.
I think that's the right decision. So, like, Kyle Heyer will be able to race as he was lined up. Let's have a look at the weather here. Current conditions, 72 in the air, 79 on the racetrack. It's a little bit cooler than it was for race number 1, so it should allow everybody to have optimal grip. We see some rubber laid onto the racetrack, but also quite a bit of dirt. And DJ, has that really ever been a consideration at this track? I mean, I know this one's dustier than most. Has that ever seemed to cause a concern for you, or do you just drive through it and kind of let your tires take care of it?
So it does make the track more slippery, but not it's not 100% accurate to real life, but it does make the track a little bit more slidey than it normally would be, and that's just a visual indication of the track's grip.
Pace cars off, 20 minutes for the last race of the evening, and the SPEC MX-5 Sim Racing Challenge will join you again after this race in 2 weeks' time from Sebring International Raceway in Sebring, Florida, for the 7th round of the season. Field exits turn number 11, the run down to the start-finish line. Double file, 27 cars deep. Green flag flies racing from WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca in the SPEC MX-5 Sim Racing Challenge. The 42 off the inside, trouble. The 16 and Tony Chow's in the wall at the start-finish line. They're going to crash. More trouble for drivers behind as they're 3 wide trying to get through it.
Almost 4 wide here as they head down to the Andretti hairpin for the first time this race. Borden with an amazing move up the inside of Hartley's also going to try to get Jonathan White, and White sliding out of the hairpin. Looks like the 42 Borden's going to get him as we get a wreck also as well.
Yeah, there was Alexander Lekowitz was the first driver turned around there, but Tony Chow was the one that got turned into the wall. Just too many cars in too small of a place. Hen pulls away in the lead for now. Jonathan White, Robert Hartley, Michael Borden. They're going to get real tight at the exit at turn number 4, and here comes Heyer looking driver's right. Oh, they touch!
Now Heyer going to go way offline, Borden up the inside, and here comes the 51 of Fakachi as well.
Ken might have damage from that. His car looked a little crab walky after that point.
Steering wheel looks sort of straight, so he should be okay, but that was a pretty bad place to get hit, really right on the left front tire there. So it doesn't look like there's any visual damage, but we'll see if it affects the handling of that race car as they run down now to the corkscrew for the first time. Up in front still Chris Head, Fakachi, and Borden side by side for 4th as they run down the hill. Borden with a big cut. We'll see if he can get away with that. On the outside, Fakachi has Heyer slow down for the 42.
Jump on the brakes to make sure he didn't hit Borden, also get some grass. Well, this has been a very eventful lap for Kyle Heyer.
Oh no! Stevens up the inside, clobbers Thomas Bressi, and Borden and Bressi slide off the course, and a big mess in turn number 10. And for Stevens, that was a big dive up the inside, and I just don't think there was space there. And that might draw the ire. Let's go back and have a look here. Goes up the inside. I don't know, guys. That was just a lot of cars in a small space.
I think Borden was a little unpredictable because he was trying to, you see how they were bumping into each other? He was trying to bleed off that slowdown he had, and he was just unpredictable. The other cars behind him didn't know what to do.
I hate that for Thomas Bressi. On the outside, had nothing to do with this. It just gets absolutely obliterated, turned around hard through turn number 10, and that's just brutal for Bressi. He's had some bad luck last season, and mostly shaken that this season, but some significant damage. He's way down the order now. Lekowitz, Pregado, in the 11. He's around in turn number 3.
It's a tough situation for everybody behind Michael Borden there because, I mean, you didn't cut the course. You don't want to serve a time penalty for it, so you're trying to get around him. But in the same token, Borden doesn't want to just get completely swamped by all these cars. So he kind of makes his car wide, but I mean that essentially means he's getting in the way. So it's tricky, man.
And even the fact, too, that you're saying over the radio here that he's trying to slow it down as much as he can, because the more corners you go through at a somewhat decent speed, the more time it adds on. So he's trying to bleed him as much time as possible. A very awkward situation. And just cutting that corner in general is going to be pretty awkward, especially at the start as we somewhat get through and somewhat get orderly here.
Yeah, and the elbows have been out, not necessarily on purpose, but just a lot of bumping and banging, certainly more than we saw. I think Road Atlanta last week was probably one of the cleanest events we've seen ever in SPEC MX-5 Sim Racing Challenge. Maybe a bit unrealistic to expect to be like that the entire time. There was a car hitting pit lane. That's Nathan Saxton's 41. Could be for a penalty because I don't see a lot of damage on that car, no?
Nope, just got issued a penalty. Also, I think the 14 of LaBelle was a black flag as well for what happened at the start. So 41 and 14 both having to serve penalties.
So they're hitting pit lane now as they'll come on down. Up at the front, though, just like race number 1, it's Hen, White, Hartley, and Hal Seal. 1, 2, 3, 4, exactly as they were. That begs the question: will anything be different this time around, DJ?
We'll see. I mean, Chris did that entire race 20 minutes without a wheel in the wrong spot, maybe like 2 or 3 missed apexes the entire race. So either Chris can do that forever, or we might see one mistake from him this race. And really, how close those guys are behind him, one mistake is all they need.
We were saying earlier how the drivers with the white paint schemes are the rookies in this series. Have a look behind Chris Taylor in the number 53. And we'll actually look at this through turn number 6. So it's going to be Jesse Stevens and Jack Sanchez. They ran last year, but then rookie, veteran, rookie. I mean, it's just there's a huge group of them in the middle of the field, and it's getting racy here. There's Justin Hall on the outside, according to Dubois. These guys were all fighting in race number 1.
And you know what? Like, these guys racing against each other, man, they're getting so much practice racing.
Oh, sorry to cut you off because Chris Hen just went off the track in turn 10. He's going to get back on, but lost a huge amount of time. White's back up to him.
And White sees some blood in the water.
Yeah, man, it was just
that's a good job from Chris.
Slightest mistake, and getting it back on here is not necessarily an easy task right here. It hits the curb on the inside, drifts out a little wide. Aims for the pit road entry to grab some asphalt and did a good job getting back on course without causing an issue.
Kyle, see if his steering's still straight, because that can damage your steering. Oh, look how crooked his steering is in the middle of that corner.
All right, looks like that's pretty straight to me there, DJ, so he got away with it. So 4 drivers all within a second of each other. Penn, White, Hartley, House Seal. Then it's 1.3 back to Steve Ficacci, who's just clinging on to this group. Then Jesse Stevens back in 6th. And the rest of the field, there is a slight group back here behind Lekowitz. There's Sohn, Shamelski, Pfeiffer, Basso, and Pergano all together.
Yeah, we saw Lekowitz and Pergano make contact in the last race, and that resulted in both of them at off on their back foot, and especially for Pergano. So I'm sure he's hoping to make sure he doesn't get a penalty in this race. Currently running 21st.
Back up to the corkscrew. Down the 4-story drop. Hen, White, Hartley, House Seal. And again, we mentioned that Hen really didn't put a wheel wrong in race 1, but we've already seen him make 1 mistake in race 2 so far. So we'll see if that starts compounding and creating more issues, but right now, White unable to put any more pressure on him. Del Campo in the 15. This has been a really good night for him after he started from the pits because of an internet issue. Drove all the way back up in race number 1, and now is sitting in 9th in race 2 after starting back in 17th. So he's had a very good night.
Yeah, indeed. It's honestly, besides Kenneth, he was one of the best rookies in the field, I think. Well, as you see, according to Dubois, go off the track in the 76 is second to last corner.
Yeah, I think there was another car involved in this. Maybe? Nope. Looks like it was on his own. Just grabs a tire, goes for a loop. Oh, another car did spin. That was Alexander Lekowitz in the 16. Identical issues there. See the tire covered in all the dirt there, and that's not helping the situation. If you go through the dirt patch, you get the dirt on the tires. It's a real big problem trying to get that off. You see him tracking back on.
And Michael Borden has just got a penalty for the contact we saw with Bresci, and I think it was Stevens involved as well. So he's going to be serving a penalty shortly here. He's trying to debate with race control, but I don't think
that's not going to go well.
Yeah, I think he's lost that fight probably.
And you know what? I think Ryan's 100% right. When you have the slowdown, you shouldn't be affecting other people's races. You're the one that messed up. Everybody shouldn't have your penalty. You have to find a way out of the way to serve your cut penalty. Right,
and I think that's the other thing is what iRacing does, and for those that there's a lot of people that are watching that aren't familiar with iRacing. If you cut any corner, so if you go, basically they give you a little bit of room to the inside of the curb. If you cut the corner, you basically get a slowdown penalty. It tells you that you have to slow down your car and give up a certain amount of time to make sure that you are not cheating. The problem with that is that iRacing is very strict about it. So if you go 4 tires off on the inside of a corner, you might have to give up 3, 4, 5, 6 seconds. And there's also a mechanic to avoid you continuing very far without serving it. So you'll get more time for each corner you go through without serving it. So that it means that you have to, what happened to the 42 is that he went through a corner and gained more time than he saw another corner coming, so he had to basically stop. Now, what he did wrong was that he stopped basically in the middle of the racetrack. And the general consensus is you get off to the outside or the offside of the racetrack, which there would have been the right side, and slow the car down. What he was doing was sitting in the middle of the racetrack, basically being a roadblock for everybody, and that meant that people had to split him 3 wide and got everybody in that bad situation.
Right, and just to add on the mechanics of that iRacing function is on the first lap, iRacing has no idea how fast you normally should be going around the racetrack. And so it just gives you a way larger and a way slower penalty than you would normally have. So cutting a corner on lap 1 is like a huge no-no because, is John gonna make a move?
Here we go for the lead.
Inside.
Chris Henn, Jonathan White, side by side. First lead change we can see tonight as they run down into the corkscrew. Henn on driver's right, gonna have to leave him the space, and White goes through to the lead. What a pass there at the top of the hill.
Took a very aggressive line. We're curious to see if he got away with it. He had all 4 tires off, but again, as we're talking about, there is some leeway, and it looks like the way he's driving, he didn't get one. He's really close to getting it, though. I'm surprised he actually didn't.
Now Robert Hartley sits in 3rd and saw that. I think he wants by, because you really can't win from 3rd here. You got to be 2nd or better if you want a chance to win this race on the last lap. And Hartley gonna set up. Oh, he did. Maybe he did get one. Oh, he's slowing, and he did. And he just waited.
Nice
So just so we're clear, this is bad for Chris Henn, but this is how you serve that penalty, right? You get out of the way, you slow down, and you do it safely, and that's exactly what Chris Henn did. It probably just lost him the race, but again, I think not causing yourself a crash is another good way to handle that.
He's not completely out of it. I'm actually surprised he didn't have to serve more of a time penalty, so he's still caught up in this group. It's going to be pretty tough to do it from 4th, but not necessarily impossible.
I mean, Chris has been fast all night. This might make for some real exciting racing, but everybody look at Jonathan White right now. This guy might be running away. Hartley was close to him, and I think he's pulled 2 car lengths on him in a half a lap right now.
Yeah, he was really fast in race 1, just couldn't find a way around Chris Henn, but here he is in race 2 and stretching a gap on Robert Hartley, 0.8 of a second as they head up towards turn number 6.
We got to get Hartley and Jonathan White 2 different color cars right now.
Yeah.
But just watching John drive the car right now, he's just really accurate. Like, just look where the edges of his tires are. It's inch here, inch there, like everywhere. He's just like spot on, completely just like tickling the dirt on corner entry and exit everywhere. John is on fire right now.
Really good job, and Hartley did close slightly through the corkscrew. It's now 0.6 of a second, but maybe the driver in 3rd is another one we should be watching a bit more carefully. Ken Ausiel, the pole sitter earlier tonight in race number 1. He's creeping back up into the picture and was the quickest car of the front group last time by.
So I think the way that Ken should be playing this right now is he should be giving Robert bumps. He should be encouraging this 1-2 battle and then try to pick up the scraps, because if he just fights Robert all by himself, John is gone, and they're essentially fighting for 2nd place.
Yeah, there's not a lot of time either. You got 5 laps to go as these guys come across the line, so you can't afford to. As Hartley completely misses the corner, and Ken Ausiel's going to take a move up the inside, but now this is going to be side by side. Now Hartley has the advantage.
Yeah, and with the 2 right-hand corners, Hartley should be able to hang on to this, but it just cost them a bunch of time to the race leader. And next time by will be about 4 laps to go. They're going to have to be perfect to catch Jonathan White, because he's got clear racetrack and no pressure from behind. He's going to be able to run down some pretty solid laps.
Yeah, you see Ken there just letting Hartley by. He could have fought him side by side for the next 3 or 4 corners, but Ken's thinking about the win. He knows that those drop races are into play, and the amount of wins you have really come into play once those drop races start affecting the series points. Oh, Ken way out in the dirt. That was sketchy. He was real close to losing the car there.
Run into the corkscrew again, this time for the 8th time today. Jonathan White, nice entry there. Hartley, Ausiel, then Chris Henn back in 4th. And Hen is not too far out. Again, he got a slowdown penalty for cutting that corner a couple minutes ago. If he can just get back up to the rear of the 94, and if they can both chase down Jonathan White, it can still be a 4-horse race for the race win, but a lot of work left to do. You see Hen just miss the apex in 10 and slide out wide at the exit.
Yeah, it seems like he's struggling at the moment.
Chris is full postman right now.
Doing everything he can to lick the stamp and send it as we come across the start-finish line. I don't know where he got that. I feel sort of responsible, but I feel like I didn't come up with it. I don't remember.
Well, I think Daniel Ricciardo said lick the stamp. I'm pretty sure he's the one that, or at least he's the one that made it famous.
Right, I'm just wondering who called Chris Hen the postman, because I don't... It could have been me, but I don't think it was me. I have to ask him.
I think it was,
if it wasn't you, then it definitely wasn't me.
Series admin Dave Fitzgerald in the Discord chat. I think he called him the postman or something like that. Because he got it. He dove from like 5-car was back and made a move stick somehow. That's how he got the postman nickname. That should be like in the SPEC MX-5 highlight clip. If anybody ever made a montage, that pass would have been in it.
All right, Robert Hartley is a second back from Jonathan White, Finian, but White continues just to run very solid laps and not quite clear of the draft, but getting there. And the draft really isn't that huge of a deal at this track, DJ. It's not super effective.
Now, it will make up for some mistakes, but it's not going to just let you just drive by your competitor's car there like on some other tracks like Road Atlanta or Coda or, some of the tracks with the longer straightaways.
Well, other major battles to speak of at the moment, Finian, as we are now under 5 minutes to go.
Yeah, and just made a bit of a mistake through the carousel there, so he lost even more time. I think he's might have used up his stuff here, is just not really able to find a groove, so I don't think he's going to be really a major factor, but anything might just pick up pieces in case we see some contact between House Seal and Hartley, which I kind of doubt these guys have been giving each other a lot of respect all season long. I'll be surprised if we do see they go out the window this race. But I definitely think I'm going to be hard-pressed to see anyone get past Jonathan White. He's looking really solid at the moment.
Well, for all the chaos and carnage we had at the beginning of the race, we only have one driver. We'll make that 2 drivers completely out. Rob Level in the 14 and the 42 of Michael Borden. Everybody else is still running, including the 24 Thomas Bressy. He's at 18th, despite all the damage he got in that turn 10 accident a couple laps into the race. So he's still out there fighting, albeit with a fairly damaged race car. I wonder if it's even tracking straight. It looks like it is. It looks a little crooked, though, on the outside.
I can tell you the car is fine, the driver probably isn't. More of how he's feeling. He was not a happy camper with that incident, I'll tell you that.
Can't imagine you would be. I mean, you're just on the outside, all of a sudden you get clobbered in the door. A fun feeling. It feels a lot like our buddy Mike Taylor. Just rebuilt his Honda Civic, took it to an SCCA event at Road America a couple weeks ago, and he basically chopped the entire front end of the car off. Transplanted it onto the rest of his car. That wasn't crashed. And then he goes down to Road Atlanta and gets rear-ended by a Miata. It was just a bad weekend for him. But that's racing sometimes.
Mike Taylor's the real-life Jesse Stevens, really fast and just gets caught up in unfortunate situations.
It really is. We got a lot of racing buddies in the SCCA and Grid Life and really all across the racing world. And it really hurts, again, even in series like this. It's expensive to crash, and you don't want to crash. And that's kind of the ideology that's been put into the drivers' heads by the stupid Ryan Cobb is, we're treating this exactly like the real SPEC MX-5 Challenge Series. So you cannot run into each other on purpose, and contact is highly discouraged against. Because in real life, you can't do it, and the winner of this championship gets to drive one of these cars. So there's no playing around once you get in the real thing.
So just that last lap alone, Hartley made up a half second on Jonathan White there, and Ken was kind of shoving his bumper the entire time. There's 2 more laps to go, so this isn't the last lap. But if you're Ken, you're kind of doing like a mental gymnastics. You're going, is he gonna mix it up, or am I gonna start fighting for second at some point? Because this track is hard to pass on, so you're not going to get a lot of opportunity. So we might see Jonathan White win just because Ken attacks Hartley, or we might see Ken win if Hartley attacks John. And Chris is there now too. So it's all 4 of these cars are bunched back up.
Well, I think for Ken Ausiel, I think he's noticing. You see mistakes.
Whoa.
There's a mistake there for Robert Hartley. He's off the racetrack on driver's right, and he's still struggling to get it back on course. That will move Ausiel solidly into second place. So that answers the question for us, DJ. And now the question is, can Ausiel track down Jonathan White? It was Hartley that made up half the time. We'll see if Ausiel can finish the job.
Jonathan White just... Oh, sorry, Finian, you go ahead.
I was going to say, it's going to be tough for Ausiel. I mean, this is quite a bit of a gap between Ausiel and White. And again, White just been driving really solid.
Oh.
And has almost yet to make a mistake. As Ausiel now makes a mistake, he goes out a little bit wide.
I think everybody went out wide there.
Again, those big curbs on the inside will send you for a really wild ride as we come across the line here, DJ. Last lap, 2.2 miles left in round number 6.
But, I mean, look, Jonathan, he's running, let's say mid-43s right now. Ken Ausiel is 0.8 behind. He can run low 44, and Ken can run the fastest lap in the last couple laps, and he's still not going to catch him. Like, John has to realize that and then just hit marks, hit exits, stay away from the red curbs, and then this will be John's second win in the series.
I have to ask Finian about that. I also want to ask Finian what happened to Jesse Stevens out of the race here, Finian. Not sure what happened to him, but it's too late to go back and look at it.
Yeah, indeed it is. And coming back to what DJ asked, Jonathan White, if he wins this race, it will be his second win of the season.
For Jonathan White?
Yeah.
And for Ausiel, it would be,
Win number 3.
Okay, so it's interesting. I thought Ausiel had more wins than just 2, but he's 0.9 of a second back. He's actually losing a little bit of ground as they come up to the corkscrew for the final time. Jonathan White, a few weeks ago, wasn't sure if he'd continue in this championship and missed Road Atlanta last week. It was a round that probably would have done quite well at, would have kept some points in the game, but as he comes down through turns 9, 10, and 11, the win, the carrot dangling in front of his face, he's 0.6 ahead of Ken Ausiel. It would be another win in the season for Jonathan White and put him squarely back in the championship picture. A big chunk of curb through turn number 10. But Jonathan White is back and back with a vengeance. Turn number 11, Ausiel is closing, but not enough. Jonathan White picks up the race 2 victory as they come back to the checkered flag. Jonathan White wins at WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca. Ken Ausiel second, third, Robert Hartley fourth. Chris Henn, Fakachi rounds out your top 5.
Yeah, if there was a way to describe the way John drove tonight, it was just accurate. Just the accuracy with his car was just spot on. He never put a wheel in the wrong spot. And yeah, it was just a great drive overall from John tonight.
There's Luke Pfeiffer in the blue car. He started up in the front for race number 1, then immediately had an issue. Had to start from the back in race 2. You see the damage on his car. It has not been a good night, but he'll come home in, it looks like, 14th place. Gustavo Pergato, same deal, 15th for him. Ismael Basso on pit lane on the last lap, so issues for him as well. But
yeah, there was a big crash heading down into turn 1 Balding, Basso, and I think 2 or 3 other drivers.
Not a good result for him either. But with that being said, Jonathan White is your winner from WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. Here's a look at your race results as they scroll on your screen. Of course, White, Ausiel, Hartley, Henn, Fakachi. That was a good run for Steve and a decent run for Jack Sanchez as well. 6th place, a 7th for Chris Taylor. And how about Nick Del Campo, Kevin Zhu, 8th and 9th for those 2 drivers. Typically drivers that run just outside the top 10 tonight, inside 8th and 9th. With that, we're going to jump to break just for a minute. We'll be back with our race winner and more in just a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back live to the SPEC MX-5 Sim Racing Challenge here on the Winding Road Magazine YouTube channel. Here now with our podium finisher in both races, Robert Hartley in the 0-3. Robert, tonight, two very good races, a good points night for you, 2 podiums, but just shy of a couple race victories. Walk us through your night and the challenges up at the front.
Yeah, them guys was strong out there tonight. It's all I had to stay with them there, but I was hoping I could mix it up a little more. If I could have got the lead, I think I could have led it and kind of protected the lead, but them guys had some good pace. Congrats to Jonathan and Chris there.
Looking forward to the rest of the season. We've got 3 rounds remaining, and our next round, taking a look, will be in 2 weeks at Sebring. Then we head to Sonoma, and then finally to Circuit of the Americas at the end of the season. Do you look at these 3 tracks as must-wins? What's your situation, and how do you plan to approach these last 3 races on very diverse, different racetracks?
Yeah, it's all about the points. You try to stay in the points battle until the last race, and then it's all for the money. But yeah, it should be exciting these next couple rounds.
All right, DJ, anything for Robert before we send him on his way?
Yeah. What did you have to like? Where were you losing the time to John at the end there?
The main corner I was noticing was turn 2, the right-hander. After the first left-hander.
Yeah.
But I don't know. They was getting through there so much. They was rolling in faster than I could, and it was costing me a 10th or 2 there.
Gotcha. Well, can't wait to see you race next time, man.
Yeah.
All right, so Robert Hartley finishes 3rd in both races. Robert, thanks so much. We'll see you next time. As we move on to Ken Seal, 2nd place in race number 2, Ken, but race 1 didn't quite go the way you planned it. A little bit of a mistake there on the exit of turn number 2, but you fought back for a second. Pretty good points night for you. Your thoughts and takeaways after WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca?
Man, that was a pretty boneheaded mistake on lap 1. That was, I'm not sure, just lost the rear a little bit and then chased it out to the dirt and had to gather it up once it got in the dirt. So it was pretty dumb, but yeah, not a bad recovery. I think I had probably the best pace in both races. Kind of burned off the fronts trying to catch back up with everybody in race 1, but the race 2 was good. Just not enough laps to catch back up to Jonathan. Feel a little bad for what happened to Jesse at the end of race 1, so I'll apologize to him. I frankly just thought I deserved a penalty for it, but he dived on me and went to turn in, and there's a car there and lifted and then got back on it, and he was still there. So it is what it is. But
well, we look at it, we got 3 rounds remaining at very different racetracks. What's the strategy, the plan? I mean, you're doing a good job, so is there any incentive to change what you're doing, or is it just kind of keep doing what you're doing?
Man, I'd really like to turn the pace that I have into wins. That would be great. And I just need to stop making silly mistakes. So.
All right, Ken Seal comes home 2nd in race number 2. DJ, anything for Ken before we send him on his way?
No, I think you did a good job tonight, Ken. Yeah, it's just, I mean, it's crazy to me how you can see just one mistake can just ruin the whole night. Because without that mistake, you had pretty flawless drives. Just that one mistake just, wiped, 8-9 points from a possible, other finishes that you would have had without that single mistake.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, Ken, have a good night. We'll see you next time at Sebring. So Ken Seal 2nd in race number 2. We'll move on now to Jonathan White, who was the winner in race number 2 from WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. Jonathan, congratulations. After missing Road Atlanta, you come on back and you find yourself in victory lane. So congrats, and walk us through the battle tonight. Race 1 and race 2, where you held off Seal for the win.
Race 1, I was really doing my best to stick with Chris because he's insanely fast here. The first section of the course, I'd be able to keep up with him, but the second half of the course, he would just beat me, especially after the corkscrew. So I managed to secure 2nd there. Pretty proud of myself of that. And then race 2, good place to start. I didn't think I was going to keep 2nd because it's really hard to maintain your place going to turn 1. And yeah, I think Chris got a penalty or something after the corkscrew. I don't really know why he fell off like that after I passed him. But after that, I was just doing my best to keep my position, keep ahead of Ken and Robert, and I managed to get the win.
As we look forward to the rest of the season, the drop races put you in a very good spot. for the season championship. As we look ahead to Sebring and Sonoma and COTA, which of those 3 tracks do you see as your strong point, or are all 3 of them a strong point where you think you can wrap up and maybe grab a few more wins in a championship?
I definitely think that Sebring is one of my best tracks because I put it about like 30 hours total doing the BMW like 120 a few months ago, as well as that 12 hours of Sebring. So I think I'll do really well there.
Jonathan, congratulations. A really impressive drive tonight, and we'll see you next time at Sebring.
Great. Good night.
Yeah. Move on now to Chris Henry. Hey, Chris, you got a copy? Might not get Chris Hen tonight, unfortunately. We'll have to move on to him. Well, maybe we'll talk to him at Sebring there, Finian. So we'll move on and call it a night here. As we kind of run down the results here one last time of race number 2 of the night. And DJ, really impressive driving again by those at the front, but definitely messier than Road Atlanta. So we head to Sebring in 2 weeks' time, which is a little bit bigger, wider, and we should get back to a little bit cleaner action up towards the middle of the group at least. But your thoughts as we leave Monterey, California?
Yeah, I mean, Laguna's a real tricky track. Little mistakes punish you a whole bunch, and Sebring is completely different. It's like really wide open. The pavement changes all over the place. The width of the track changes. It has a unique, weird flow to it, but once you get it, you got it. And the draft will come more into play there. I think we're going to see some awesome racing next round.
All right, and Finian, your final thoughts on WeatherTech Race to Laguna Seca, and your thoughts on COTA as the season finale. That track was a really interesting one last season, and we go there in just about a month's time for the season finale. So your thoughts on this race and COTA as the finale?
Yeah, no, this race is, as the DJ was saying, pretty chaotic, but still pretty fun to watch, especially the race for the lead there in race number 2, getting to see why make a pretty good pass on Chris Hen. But yeah, for COTA for the end of the season thing, it's going to be an interesting track. Obviously, with that giant back straightaway is going to be a major passing opportunity for these drivers, especially even turn 1 as well, considering straightaway. And then you got the S is a really great section to just really test these drivers, working the car left to right to left to back to right again several times. So a very unique track in the U.S. and definitely looking forward to being there.
We already mentioned Sebring is where we're headed to, DJ, but your thoughts on that as well?
So, sitting in the booth this time and not sitting in the car, this points reset is way more fun. It's going to be awesome for that final race where everybody has their points essentially reset. You get like a bonus point for each position that you're up in the standings, but that points reset makes it where it's anybody's game. Like Ken's leading the points right now, but that means he's only leading by 2 points going into the last race, no matter how many points he's leading by.
All right, we'll see you next time at Sebring International Raceway. It'll be 2 weeks' time until we head to Sebring, Florida, and actually move on to round number 7 of the season. Thanks so much again to our sponsors, Level Up Racing School, Rick Motec, and Winding Road. We'll see you in Florida in 2 weeks. Have a wonderful night. Enjoy it. See ya.